It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to the to the show that we're doing right now.
Following the local teams, breaking down the biggest games with in-depth analysis and team interview. Join the show by calling into 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press.
Throws, ends it. Yes! Caught! Touchdown! Did he get it?
Welcome on into the Full Court Press. Jason Walker here with Eric Frandsen as we start the show here on a Wednesday, a game day Wednesday for Utah State basketball. We've also got football on the docket, not football games being played. The NFL is the only thing still going as far as football. Well, maybe the Canadian League's doing something. I don't know what they do.
I doubt the Canadian League's doing anything right now.
Yes, that's
all
true.
Buried in snow.
There's not really a whole lot you could do out there in Canada right now. But a lot of stuff for us to talk about today. We have the full show. A lot of times we keep having these abbreviated shows, but today we've got the full 2 hours to play with here between myself, Jason Walker, and Eric Frandsen. So we'll be going through all of that football, basketball, starting with football, as today is National Signing Day for college football. And the Aggies announcing officially, I think we'd been able to report one way or the other, all 32 of the transfers that they ended up announcing today. They also announced 4 additional high school signees. They had announced, I think, 7. They'd announced 17, but then one of them said that their signing had been like canceled or whatever. So they ended up with 16 in that early signing period from high school, and then an additional 4. So 20 total high school signees, 32 transfer portal signees from either FCS or FBS or Division II. No junior college players. And that was by design. We'll hear from Bronco Mendenhall about that a little bit later. Currently working on getting a full recap of signing day up on Cache Valley Daily, just kind of a summary and get all the players' names in all in one place, basically in a giant table. Although I did post on social media on Twitter the press release they put out today, which includes all 32 transfer signings and the 4 high school signings. Doesn't include the early signing class, my post from today, but you'll get the lion's share of what was announced. Well, pretty much everything that was announced today, but the lion's share of the players to keep an eye on, since a lot of the high school players, sometimes they take a year before they got to take a redshirt year before making the jump into the into the depth chart.
But yeah, Utah State adding a lot of players. Well, a couple things that we had a press conference earlier today with Bronco Mendenhall, and a few highlights for me at least, and I'm curious which stood out to you, because we were both there, but you and I really haven't compared notes.
No, we haven't.
Since then about some of the things that stood out to us. So this will be fresh for all of us on the radio. But a few things that stood out to me: they made 44 visits with athletes, and of those 44 visits, they secured, what do you say, 32 commitments?
Yeah, 32. That's how many transfers they brought in.
That's a great closing ratio for a football staff. So that I thought was really interesting. Interesting commentary about McKay Hillstead coming back to Utah State, what they see in him. Probably the front runner to be the starting quarterback for next year. Comments about wide receivers. So we didn't get a lot of that, because that was more, some of that was what I found interesting, and that came from Evan Butts, and we don't have that cut up for you yet.
Yeah, we were only human, so we can only do so much.
Time commitments. And then, but Anthony Garcia, Coach Mendenhall did talk about him, and I thought that was interesting about he's a gadget guy, and he may be used as even more of a gadget guy going forward. So anyway, some interesting stuff about Utah State and getting players with proven experience versus those that are seeking experience. And so it's an interesting connection of players. But when you look at this, and look at this class and what Utah State has done to build their roster for next year, for me, looking at this, and I know you've done a lot of evaluation on this probably more than I have, but it appears that they have really invested what money they do have pretty heavily on defense, but also some select players on offense that will make this a really interesting and I think a fun roster for 2026 as they move into the Pac-12.
Yeah, they really targeted the positions that they definitely had to target. Mind you, there had to be a little bit of everything. But when you look at and I ended up calling it to a degree where, when the portal started, I put an article, said, here are the top 3 things that I feel like they need. They got to go out there and get a quarterback. They had 2 incoming freshmen. I think at the time I wrote that article, I think CJ Tiller was still on the roster. But then, he leaves, so you have essentially nothing. You did have Anthony Garcia, but as we'll get to later, he's actually not going to factor into the quarterback battle at all. So they needed a quarterback, ideally 2 transfers. And then you also have the incoming freshman who can certainly battle for that. We'll see if they manage to beat out 2 veteran transfers. Well, they went out and they got Grady Brosterhouse, McKay Hillstead. One of those guys has starting experience at the FBS level. Another is an experienced guy with some, time at the power level, though he's only thrown 1 pass in his college career, but still has some potential to be a starter, at least at the G6 level. Then I said they needed to work on the offensive line. They went out and added 5 offensive linemen via the transfer portal. A lot of big guys, players that they really needed to stack up on offensive tackles. And of all the guys they added, they're expecting a lot of them, if not all of them, to compete for time at one of those tackle positions, if not also the interior offensive linemen, because some of the guys that brought in were interior offensive linemen, but they may now compete at tackle. We'll see. And I also said they needed to go out and get edge rushers or outside linebackers as they are listed on Utah State's roster. They went out and added 5 of them. As far as any single position, that was the one they added the most. They added 5 or 6 offensive linemen, but there's 5 positions on the offensive line. Yeah. There's only 1 edge rusher position, technically 2 of them on the field at the same time typically, but still 5 players at 1 position. You can go make a restaurant out of that. 5 guys.
Yeah, that's right.
At that position. And so they really went out and addressed that. And there were other things they had to address too. They had to address the secondary, and I didn't highlight that in my article. I limited it to 3 things, but they needed to focus on the secondary. And then they went out and got some, good players at other positions. They needed to find someone to replace John Miller. They got some good candidates, Harrison Taggart and Asher Cunningham, 2 good candidates there, along with Bronson Olival, who's likely to take a step up this year. They needed wide receivers, and it's going to be similar to last year where we don't know who these guys are. But not knowing who Braden Pagan and Brady Boyd were last year didn't exactly hurt them in their ability to perform.
Yeah, and really that's unfortunately we don't have that clip specifically from Evan Butts, because that's what his point was, because I asked him about the wide receivers, and he said, well, look, last year nobody knew what those 2 guys were going to do and others, and even Anthony Garcia. But we have proven that we can develop these guys and find these guys and feature these types of guys. And Utah State's going to have some more opportunities with that, with some of the guys that they have coming in, like notably Rex Haynes, and a good number of other wide receivers that are in the mix. Some of these guys have playing time, like Eli Wood, had some great catches at the very end of the season last year in the conference championship game and in their bowl game, but really didn't do much for the rest of the season. So it's kind of a mix, and but I think it's exciting. And the other thing too is spring practices will have opportunities for fans to see what this team is all about. Coach Mendenhall said that it's not going to be like they did last year because there's only the 1 portal window. It's still a bit of a work in progress, but there are going to be opportunities for people to see what's going on with Utah State football, and in some kind of interesting and unique ways, as he explained it.
Yeah. Let's hear from Mendenhall there.
It's still a work in progress, but it will be more of a traditional spring, not nearly as much tailored to the OTA style. I think when the calendar warrants that, then possibly you'll see a shift from me toward that. I don't think the calendar currently warrants that, and so you'll see more traditional, what a traditional spring would look like. Each Saturday, there'll be some kind of emphasis, and it might be alumni, right? It might be on campus and professors and those that are working in some support area. The spring, I won't call it a spring game because I don't intend for it to be truly a spring game, but spring showcase where there still will be a scrimmage, and I see that being open with other activities around that for the community. So it won't be the buttoned up version. Again, the primary motive from that a year ago was protection of our roster. So now more community engagement, more access, but with pretty specific intents, especially each Saturday as to who's invited and for what type of connection, to make sure we cover and throw the cast as broad a net as possible with some type of spring showcase, spring game-ish format to finish, with that being kind of a culmination of community engagement, where I would see things for young people, I would see things for older people, I would see the practice, I would see things possibly after, maybe an entire afternoon of events that would go with the game, something like that. Again, we're still in the planning stages, but certainly different than a year ago.
Yeah, so that's good to hear. The fact that you're going to have a spring practice schedule, essentially a spring ball schedule that is a lot more open. You have the fans who get to be there. Obviously, we're kind of biased where we want to be able to see these guys play so that we can kind of do our jobs as best we can. And last year, Utah State was basically stuck between wanting to have that outreach with us, with the fans, and also not wanting to have that because we're justifiably afraid of us talking about it. Articles being put out, we put out our top 25 Aggies and that kind of stuff. And it's like, well, if that stuff gets out, suddenly they're getting poached in the spring portal. And they didn't want that. And now that there's no spring portal, Mendenhall can be like, all right, here's our roster. Come one and all. This is who we got. Come see what we got.
Yeah, because there's no threat. And the other thing, too, interesting about the spring time and just looking at this, what they're doing with the portal is, even though they announced a lot of numbers today, they're still reserving a little bit of space, or just in case, because once you get the roster together and you get he's got some new position coaches and a new offensive coordinator, you got to really see what you really have, and if there are other opportunities to bring additional bodies in to address specific needs, he's giving himself that wiggle room.
Yeah, got to be ready in case there's an NFL player who has some eligibility left and they want to come back and play college ball, right?
Yeah,
that's
right.
That's more the college basketball thing. But yeah, kind of along with that, obviously they're going to keep some roster spots open in case something happens in the spring and they need to add some players. So you can't go all the way to the 105 roster limit and say this is what we got, because you don't want to hedge yourself in too early. But one thing, and we mentioned this earlier already, is the lack of junior college recruits. And for years, I don't know when the last time Utah State didn't add a junior college player. Like, that's been a yearly thing. Sometimes it's only a couple.
Yeah.
But like that is
some coaches, like, it was a staple of recruiting.
I know Blake Anderson used to bring like a dozen or so junior college players every year, and some of them panned out, although to be honest, a lot of them seemed not to. Like, we look at these guys who would put up decent stats in the junior college ranks, or guys coming from JUCO who are like these 6'2", 300-pound defensive linemen, or offensive linemen who played a lot of snaps, or wide receivers who caught a lot of passes, or sometimes they hadn't caught a lot of passes, but they had good physical measurables. You'd get these guys coming from junior college, and you think, okay, they're taking a step up in difficulty, but where they were stars at the junior college level, you think they can make that step up to Division I, and it seemed like that just wasn't happening as much as kind of maybe we expected based on our evaluations. And Bronco Mendenhall seemed to come to the same conclusion, where I'll let him explain his reasoning for why they pretty much intentionally didn't really go after any junior college players.
Again, I have super high standards, and and I'm looking for the best predictors possible. And so just in assessing junior college players in my last 2 years between New Mexico and Utah State, and then weighing them against what I thought we were getting, either through FCS, other levels of Division 1, 2 football, I made a clear choice this year where I thought the predictive model was higher for players coming into our program, not only in performance but fit, from 4-year schools rather than 2-year schools. And so that was an intentional choice. That doesn't mean you won't see us take a junior college player, but when possible, we're emphasizing the other first. And so that's reflected with how we chose to sign. And I think, again, that's just based on our own study of our own team and the yield and performance, as well as all areas in our program that fit. Personally and intentionally, I think that was a better predictor for us.
Yeah, so it's not supposed to be this indictment on the ability of junior college players. It's just a reality of, Utah State and because more specifically for Bronco Mendenhall, because he's drawing on his experience in New Mexico and other places, like maybe they just weren't really good at evaluating junior college players. And sometimes, whether it's just the reality of the kind of junior college players they can get, or sometimes as a coaching staff, you got to sometimes recognize maybe you have a weakness at evaluating certain types of players. Whatever the reason may be, I don't want to cast aspersions on anyone, but for whatever reason, they were not getting the results they wanted from junior college players, so they have moved on to different areas of recruiting.
Yeah, and it was a phrase that was repeated a few times, and there's a whole segment on that, but demonstrated experience versus seeking experience. And going to sometimes the FCS or even Division II, those are guys who are getting experience, but they're also getting time to develop their bodies. And so at junior college, you don't get quite as much time to develop your body. Interesting. I mean, we've seen good players come out of the junior college ranks, and we've seen that be a rich resource in the past. But for Bronco Mendenhall and his staff, they feel you're going to get better results going in a different way.
Yeah. Now, one thing we wanted to talk about, and we'll hit this before we go to a break, and then we'll get into the quarterback position. But something we touched on a week or so ago, I forget exactly how long ago it was, but when Colin Romanowski committed to the Aggies. This is a 6'1", Utah State listing him at 255. He was dang near 260 pounds listed at his previous spot at Ashland University. So 6'1", 255, he's a fullback over at Ashland. Although Utah State is giving him a different position name, and they're actually adding another player to this. We didn't really catch on to this because the player was listed as a defensive tackle, and I'm suddenly not able to find him on my list.
Tyler Mazdea
from Shippensburg University. This is a guy who last year had 17 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, 1.5 sacks, and a forced fumble as a 6', 290-pound defensive tackle. Well, this year he is going to play fullback, or more accurately, more accurately, he will be playing a different position. The Aggies have termed this position the Rhino, and that is what Mazdea and Romanowski will play as essentially a hybrid fullback tight end position. Here's
where they will inflict pain on the opponent.
Here's what Mendenhall said about their new position group and the players in said position group.
The position actually, and I didn't, it's not Doug's fault, but we're actually not calling it a fullback. We're calling them rhinos, like the kind that, and there's different ways that we use that position. It's not new to Coach and I's and Robert and I's relationship, and so we love inline tight ends, traditional tight ends. We love flex tight end body types, but we also like fullback-ish, tight end-ish. And we didn't know really what to call a half fullback, half tight end, so we kind of went to just the Safari world. I don't remember the full story. We might have been watching the Discovery Channel or something, and we said, oh, that's what we want. We want those guys, and they kind of knock people out of the way and whatever. So, there'll be an element of that in our offense that I really like. And both of those guys' stories, if you kind of dig into where they're coming from, one's a converted nose tackle, has never played the position, and another kind of did that same role at where he was. And so both really cool stories.
So my personal headcanon will be that they probably saw one of their kids playing a Spider-Man game in the Rhino.
Maybe, I don't know.
Or maybe they were on a safari. I don't know.
Watching the Animal Planet or something.
Inspired by a very powerful animal, the rhinos. And essentially, I have to say, I love fullbacks. Like, there's a special place in my heart for fullbacks and I formation and offset I formation power football. I am saddened by the fact that most people don't have a lead blocking fullback. I love that the Patriots, in some of their Super Bowl runs had like James Devlin in there. And I'm kind of excited to see Utah State throw that in there where it's probably going to be Romanowski for the most part, maybe, but you're going to see Mazda in there as well, likely. Again, 290 pounds clearing the way on some of these short yardage plays.
Yeah. Mazda is a big body. Romanowski's not small either. He's 255. But this, and then also you look at the quarterbacks outside of McKay Hillstead, who's not really big. He's only 5'10", 195.
Neither is Caleb Maryland, to be honest.
And Caleb Maryland's not very big. But the other two quarterbacks, they are bigger bodies. And so there appears to be a greater emphasis on we need to be able to run a power run game. We need to be able to get 2 or 3 yards at any moment's notice. Because the way that we were structured last time, it was a struggle.
Yeah.
So we're building a roster that if we have to get 2 yards to convert short down yardage, we can.
At some point, Utah State, this next season, Utah State will have a formation in which Grady Brosterhouse is under center, and on one hip, he's going to have Romanowski, 6'1", 255 pounds, and on his other hip, he's going to have Tyler Mazda at 290 pounds, and in front of him, all the hogs up front, and they are going to shove the 220-pound Grady Brosterhouse 1.5 yards for a crucial first down. That is going to happen at least once, if not multiple times.
Yes.
We got to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about quarterbacks. Brosterhouse in the mix. McKay Hillstead, we've already brought him up. What's it going to look like with Anthony Garcia, where coaches have said he's probably not going to be the quarterback position. You'll hear what Mendenhall has to say about Anthony Garcia, and also just thoughts about how excited this coaching staff is for the quarterback room that they have. I've seen some pessimism about the quarterback room from Aggie fans, and the coaching staff does not share in that pessimism in the slightest. So we'll talk about all that coming up next here on the Full Court Press.
Master Auto Tech delivers honest, reliable auto repair and maintenance from certified technicians who put customers first. From routine service to major repairs, they're committed to quality work and clear communication. With 22 Utah locations, including Logan, Brigham City, and Ogden, there's always a Master Auto Tech nearby. Master Auto Tech, expert care, local service, and confidence you can trust.
Your trusted, helpful expert, Master Auto Tech.
Express your love for her this Valentine's Day by presenting a piece of diamond jewelry from S.E. Needham Jewelers. Diamond jewelry makes a woman feel cherished. A pair of beautiful diamond earrings will add to the sparkle in her eyes. Adorned in diamond earrings, she will feel elegant and appreciated. Choose from a large selection of quality diamond earrings, all specially priced for Valentine's Day. Remember, diamonds from S.E. Needham's will be noticed from across the room, and everyone will know she's yours. Open Monday through Saturday, 10 to 7. S.E. Needham Jewelers, middle of the block, at the sign of the clock.
Hi, it's Emily, and here at Serenoni, we believe everyone deserves the perfect blanket. That's why we offer a wide variety of sizes and fabrics, from our softest minky to cozy lush, breathable bamboni to textured waffle. So you can find the perfect fit for babies, teens, grandparents, and everyone in between. Established in 2006 right here in Logan, come visit us and find the perfect blanket at our store on 10th West next to iFit. Serenoni, wrapped in comfort, gifted with love.
Headed to Logan or just need an easy, affordable place to stay? Mention Aggie 79 and get a room at the Baum Hotel for just $79. Located minutes from Utah State University, it's ideal for football weekends, graduation, campus events, or visiting family. No long drives, no stress. At the Sure Stay Baum Hotel, you'll enjoy comfortable beds, a free continental breakfast, and seasonal outdoor pool, all at a price that makes sense. $79 rooms with Aggie 79. Call 435-752-5220. That's 752-5220 to book today.
It doesn't matter who you root for. The Full Court Press has all the high school sports covered. The Full Court Press. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and online at 1069thefan.com.
Welcome on back to the Full Court Press. Jason Walker here with Eric Frandsen talking about Utah State football. Their signing day was today. They officially announced 32 players coming via the transfer portal, an additional 4 high school players who are joining a class of 16 players who are in the early signing period coming out of high school. And
just quickly, of all those numbers, the vast majority, pretty much everybody of the transfer guys will be on campus in time for spring ball.
Yeah, they've had to move heaven and earth for some of these guys.
Yeah, the university has been great to work with, according to Mendenhall and Evan Butts. They've had great support from the institution to find ways to make this work for these athletes, and they are going to be on campus by the time spring ball takes place. So most of them are here now. A few more will be trickling in. But that's massive to get that many players here now, start working with strength and conditioning, nutrition, and becoming more familiar with each other, the playbook, the coordinators, position coaches. It's massive.
Yeah. So one position group to be keeping an eye on is quarterback. It's a position we like to talk about here with the media. Obviously, fans have a lot of interest, which is why we tend to talk about it a whole lot on our radio shows. And
the most important position in football.
Yeah. Like I don't know
if you can say arguably.
Yeah,
I mean, it is.
Yeah, it just is. Like that's the kind of the long and short of it. There were some questions with the quarterback position because they lost pretty much all their entire quarterback depth chart. Their top 3, Bryson Barnes graduated, so did Jacob Conover. CJ Tiller hit the transfer portal. You do have Anthony Garcia coming back, but there's a question like, would he end up moving back to quarterback? This is a guy who came into college as a quarterback. He redshirted at San Jose in 2023. He went I think he went with the head coach who went from San Jose to Arizona.
Yep.
Was still a quarterback there. I think he took one snap at quarterback and ran the ball once. Didn't see very much time there. Came to Utah State. Didn't really have an opportunity to play quarterback. He switched to wide receiver. Would he come back and play quarterback this upcoming season? And the answer is from Mendenhall is no. He will not be playing quarterback this upcoming season, but he will still definitely have a role within the offense.
So I don't see Anthony Garcia, I'll start in reverse order, affecting the quarterback battle. I see him becoming more skilled at being trained year-round as his predominant position being wide receiver, but we also know he can throw it. We know he can run it. By the way, he can punt. So that takes on a different weapon-ish. We chose not to do that a year ago. However, and could he line up a quarterback? Oh, yeah. But in terms of the quarterback battle separately, no. In terms of every other way possible to touch the ball or kick it, I don't know if he can kick field goals yet. Maybe we'll find that out, but...
Yeah, I don't know if the world is ready for Anthony Garcia field goals. We may end up seeing him in a punt formation. Maybe they roll him out in a punt formation, make everyone freak out, and then he kicks it anyway, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, a deep shotgun type look, and maybe he'll throw it, maybe he'll run it, maybe he'll kick it.
Yeah, just kind of an interesting tool. It does feel like a very niche thing, like having your gadget quarterback also a punter. I don't know. Maybe they can make him a gunner or somebody blocking in the backfield. Opportunities to use him as a punter are kind of hard to dream up, but that's something they could end up doing.
It happens from time to time. Leon Jackson III did that for Utah State back in the day. I saw this locally. I can't remember his first name, but Cox, the quarterback at Ridgeline, he would do that from time to time as well. Defenses weren't sure, are they going to go for it on 4th and short, or is he going to just kick it over the coverage because they won't have somebody back there?
That happens a ton at the high school level.
Yeah, so, I mean, it happens, it occurs, and we've seen it even at Utah State. It's been a while, but to at least know you have that option and at least throw that out there. If there's anything you can do as a team that can make your opponent scratch their head and spend extra brain cells trying to figure out what you're doing, you're winning.
Yeah. And so Anthony Garcia is going to continue playing that, do-it-all role. He's going to throw it. I'd expect his stats to be pretty similar this next year to what he did. I don't know if he's going to be the number one receiver. He's going to be in the rotation. He's going to catch between 15 and 30 passes. He's going to throw the ball between 5 and 10 times. He's going to run the ball 15 or 20 times, lining up a quarterback a decent amount of the time, or taking jet sweeps. He'll take a jet sweep and then throw it. Yeah, he's going to continue playing that gadget role, and he's going to continue to make defenses consistently worry about what to do when he's in the game. And there's a lot of advantages that can bring. So what about the guys who will be competing for quarterback? Because that basically now it narrows it down from 5 players to 4. McKay Hillstead, Grady Brosterhouse. Then you have 2 incoming freshmen, Brady Goodman and Caleb Maryland. We start with McKay Hillstead. He's a guy that's already played snaps here way back in 2023. Started 4 games, made 8 appearances, threw passes in most of those 8 games. Decent number of passes in most of those 8 games. Ended up with like 1,000 yards and change or something like that, 11 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Bit of an up and down season, but he's a guy that left because he felt like he wasn't going to get a fair shake at the starting job. Never got the starting job at BYU, despite a couple of different tries.
Right. He had opportunities.
Yeah. And now he's coming back to Utah State and again just really wants that starting job. But we asked Bronco about, adding someone who was previously Utah State, even though Mendenhall wasn't the one who was coaching him at Utah State.
Mutual interest, again, relatively early on. And again, I'm not the coach that acts on mutual interest through third parties and all of that. I'm coaching the season, and he was competing to be the quarterback at BYU. But I made a mental note at that point, that would be a good fit at Utah State. I love having our quarterback come from our state. I think that reflects the intent of what we fill our roster with. I think it reflects the value we place on that, but also to have that player. And so, wow, what a capable leader I've already seen. And then athletic and fast, and he throws the ball well. And it's just a natural partnership as I see it. And I think he's craving and dying for the chance to be able to be the starting quarterback and have that experience and to lead a team and to learn and grow and become and demonstrate what he's truly capable of. So we saw it as a first-year player, right? And that's what a cool experience that was to watch. And, man, I was captivated by the potential now for the chance as a more seasoned version to lead a team and to be able to battle for that spot. I think he's a great fit. And when you match him with Robert and I, our offensive coordinator, and you start thinking about Taysom Hill, you start thinking about Bryce Perkins, and then really Jason Beck learned that system that he's running under Robert. And you think about Devin Dampier, so you think about the possibilities of what that might look like. That becomes pretty exciting for not only McKay, but for us.
Yeah, interesting perspectives there from the head coach. I don't know that I see McKay Hillstead as a Devin Dampier type. I don't really see him as
Taysom Hill or Bryce Perkins
type. He's not that type of player.
Well, it's interesting because
he's not that body type.
Yeah. Well, he's not Taysom Hill or Bryce Perkins because Taysom Hill, he was what, 6'2", 6'3", 240 pounds or something like that. Bryce Perkins was he was at Virginia, but he was 6'3", 215. Devin Dampier is the more interesting comparison because Dampier's 6 foot, 200 pounds. Hillstead's 5'10", 195. Probably the biggest difference there, though, is that Dampier's a lot faster. Mm-hmm. He's faster and a shiftier runner, but Hillstead's still somewhat speedy. And so that ended up making things really interesting because I don't see Hillstead as much of a dual threat quarterback. I think of him a lot in similarity to Micah Elahado. Able to run, but that's not what they're going to do a whole lot of the time. You're not going to do too many designed runs, and he's mostly going to scramble because he's run out of options or he's facing pressure and he's escaping pressure.
Yeah, he's not a Bryson Barnes where running is absolutely part of his bag.
Yeah,
I think and we saw this to a degree, he can scramble, but you're not going to run or call designed runs for him. Yeah. But I don't know, with this Rhino package, maybe you do. Maybe you have better blockers out in front of him to give him space, but he's not that big of an athlete or as fast of an athlete where that's going to be a featured part of what he does. I think he can do it, but it's not like he'll be known more for his arm than his legs.
Yeah, that's a guy who I think of all the players on the roster has the best arm talent, and which is impressive for a guy who's 5'10". I think he throws the ball better than basically anyone out there. Caleb Maryland actually has a pretty decent arm himself, and surprisingly enough, the two short guys seem to have almost as good, if not better, arm talent than the two guys who are 6'4" and 220 pounds.
Yeah.
Although there's nothing to scoff at with Brosterhouse or Goodman's ability to throw. But yeah, I think McKay Hillstead presents the best immediate potential as a passer, whereas a lot of these other quarterbacks, I see things that worry me a little bit. Brosterhouse, he's got a good arm. He's probably the best runner. I think he probably has the best ability. If you wanted a guy who was going to emulate the Bryson Barnes, I can run it 25 times a game, Grady Brosterhouse is your guy.
Yes.
He can do that. And probably has passing similar to Bryson Barnes, which is kind of both good and bad because Bryson Barnes wasn't the most talented thrower. He was just good enough.
Yeah, and he improved. When Bryson first got here, he was not a very good thrower.
Yeah.
Not that I would say that he is a really good thrower now, but he definitely improved. His accuracy improved within the system and with more training. And could Brosterhouse do that? Yeah, I would suspect that he would. But yeah, he's going to be known more for basically a wildcat.
Yeah, he's essentially the new Bryson Barnes in terms of his archetype. As far as the off-field leadership and a lot of things Bryson Barnes brought, they're two different people. You can't draw those exact same comparisons without knowing anything. But from what I can tell, watching some film and highlight reels, there's not a whole lot of actual film on him. There's mostly highlights. And like one spring game I was able to find.
There's some practice stuff.
Yeah, there's some practice stuff that he put out, and it was his highlights from practice. And then I was able to find a spring broadcast where he played about one half. So that's about all the data I'm working with on Brosterhouse. So it's not the most robust stuff, but it's all we got.
But with all that being said, they still feel like they're really excited about their quarterback situation.
Yeah, they are.
New offensive coordinator Robert Anai, he's excited about it. Yes, there is a level of concern from outsiders that these guys don't really have quality Division I experience, but they're hungry to get it, and there is a talent level there which should be able to help Utah State get some wins.
Really like Grady, our quarterback from Virginia, and it's been so impressive in leadership and size and physicality and speed in addition. And then our high school players, both those young quarterbacks. Put it this way, our offensive coordinator, again, Robert, he's almost giddy, and that's not characteristic for Robert. I heard him over talking to a colleague, and he says, "You can't believe the quarterback situation I walked into." And he's smiling and talking in a really positive way. So we really like where we are quarterback wise right now.
Yeah, and I think the Aggies should be happy about the quarterback. I think they have two guys that you can be comfortable starting at quarterback. I don't think I could really say that about the Aggies last year. They had one guy. Bryson Barnes was solid. And in terms of his impact, even if he wasn't one of the better throwers, he was one of the better quarterbacks. He deserved that second team All-Mountain West selection. There's some that felt he should have been first team and, offensive player of the year. And if there were a couple of games went a different way, a couple of balls bounced differently, and perhaps Barnes ends up as offensive player of the year. But he was basically it. Jacob Conover, as decent as he was stepping in, I don't know if it would have been great for him to be the full-time starting quarterback. It would have felt like the offense was limited. But you look at what they have with Hillstead, I think he can be a really solid player so long as he's developed, which he has developed, from his freshman year where there's some ups and downs. Now that he's a bit more of a veteran, you level that out a little bit, and he can be a little bit more consistent. We can see more of those highs that we saw where he threw for basically 400 yards against the Kurt Signetti, James Madison team that I think ended up winning 11 games that year.
That's true.
And then, Grady Brosterhouse, there's some talent there. And then the two freshmen. Aggie fans love Caleb Maryland. I've already heard him called the second coming of Chucky Keaton. And there's a lot of things to be happy about him. Caleb Maryland is a fast kid. He's a track athlete, a sprinter. And as I mentioned earlier, he's got a fantastic arm. Like I'm watching him in, the state championship game, jumping and then hurling a ball 20 yards down the field on a rope to his receiver, or effortlessly throwing a ball 50 yards in the air as he's about to get nailed by a defensive tackle and just puts it 50 yards down the field on a dot to his receiver for a touchdown. Like, kid's got a cannon attached to his arm, his shoulder. And so there is some talent there. But I think, to be honest, I think a lot of fans are forgetting that Brady Goodman.
Yeah, Goodman.
Like, go watch him play.
Big body. He can scramble. He's powerful. He's got a big arm.
Yeah.
When I look at the quarterback situation for Utah State, I see McKay Hillstead and Grady Brosterhouse as they're going to be the ones that are going to be taking the snaps. And it's probably more likely McKay is the starter. But the future of the quarterback position is the guys that are coming in the freshman class. I think McKay and Grady can help Utah State, but I don't know what their ceiling really is. I think the ceiling is higher with this incoming freshman class than this transfer class. But until we see them in practice and see, maybe McKay and Grady, they've been itching for their time to shine and just hasn't been given to them, and we're going to be blown away. And I'll be eating crow and saying, man, that was silly for me to say. But I see more potential out of the incoming freshmen than the transfer quarterbacks. I wouldn't start the freshmen over these other guys because I think they have that experience and they have the body types to handle it. So I think they have the edge there, but I think the future is with the freshmen coming in.
Yeah, the trick at that point is just, can you keep them around? Because a lot of kids redshirt and then they leave because they don't necessarily see a future as a starter.
Well, as Bronco Mendenhall said today, everybody's on a 1-year contract.
Yeah, basically, that's kind of where we're at.
All it is.
So you try and keep around as long as you can and see where you can go from there. We got to take a break. We're a little overdue. We'll keep this conversation going. We'll also start shifting toward talk about the Utah Jazz. We'll kind of get our last thoughts, and then we'll probably finish out the hour on the Jazz. Get some last thoughts on the transfer class. Any text that you guys have, text 435-339-0321. Your thoughts on Utah State signing class and the future of Utah State football here on 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
This is Jordan with Primrose Home Care and Hospice, and I'm here with Barbara. Barbara, how did you become acquainted with Primrose?
I had been trying to get another company to come and help me, and I had waited about 2 weeks, and I needed a bath. My neighbor suggested that she would make a few phone calls, and that very afternoon, Mark Stokes was sitting in my front room, and he said, "What do you need?"
Primrose Home Care and Hospice. We're your home team.
Hi friends, this is Lydia at The Sportsman on Main Street. At The Sportsman, we try really hard to find unique products. For women, this is our first season carrying Free People movement, and you will love it. We also have great fresh looks from Viore, Pendleton, Cool, and Birkenstock. For the men, you will love our new shirts, jackets, sweaters, and pants from Cool, Fjallraven, Viore, and Pendleton. From colognes and perfumes to skis, we've got you covered.
Welcome, friend, nice to see you again at The Sportsman
in downtown Logan.
Hey, it's JD here, and with the new year comes that familiar feeling of wanting a fresh start. We all make resolutions: eat better, be healthier, do better, but for some, the resolution that matters most is getting sober. That's why I want to tell you about Renaissance Ranch. They specialize in a faith-based, clinically proven addiction recovery. They know what it takes to break free for good. Call or visit renaissanceranch.net and make this the year that addiction no longer controls your story. Renaissance Ranch, hope, healing, and recovery.
Old McDarrell has a farm, an appliance farm, with down-home country prices and big city selection. E-I-E-I-O. When you're looking for a friendly spot to drive a little and save a lot, hey, Old McDarrell has a farm, an appliance farm. Darrell's Appliance. Low overhead, but lots of country charm. See Darrell's Appliance in beautiful downtown Benson.
Join the show by calling 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to the Full Court Press. Feel free to text our Young Power Sports of Logan text line 435-339-0321. We had a text that came in. I meant to read this out because it would have led us perfectly into our talk, but Anthony Garcia was 5662 who texted in before we got into that topic asking if Anthony Garcia was going to be a Swiss Army knife type receiver again, or if he would take if he was in the running for quarterback snaps. And as we went over, the answer is he'll be the Swiss Army knife type receiver. Won't be getting, I guess, real quarterback snaps. He will line up at quarterback at some point, but as a wildcat type player, someone who will throw out of that look. Although I don't think he ever
pass type stuff.
Yeah, I don't think he ever actually threw a pass when he lined up as a quarterback. I think every single time he threw it, he was lined up as a wide receiver or inline tight end or something like that.
And he came in motion and things like that. Yeah.
And, took a pitch or some cases it was double pass. So we'll see exactly how they run that this season, but they'll get tricky with it. We'll get to some of these other texts a little bit later. They're a little off topic. One about Utah State. One about the media deal for the Mountain West and the Pac-12. Although 4781 saying, I really hope the Patriots get smacked this week. So we can do some Super Bowl talk.
Some love for you there, Jason.
Yeah, I know. Everyone's rooting for the Seahawks, although I do like that this week I have seen all of my favorite moments from that Super Bowl. All the different, great plays. Of course, the one play in particular, all the different, great renditions and people bringing up their home videos where they're filming a bunch of Seahawks fans watching the game and, seeing all their hearts ripped out. Really makes me smile.
It just warms your heart.
Yeah, it just warms my cold, dead New England Patriots heart. Never even been to New England yet. I'm still somehow a Patriots fan. So everyone calls me a bandwagon fan. But hey, I stuck with them through the horrific drought of no Super Bowls. But yeah, final thoughts, Eric, on this recruiting class. I think we've gone over a lot of different things. I think we like the quarterback depth. Really love how they address the positions of need. We haven't even got into some of these guys at linebacker. A lot of the guys, you mentioned in the beginning, like how much they added on the defense, and we've really touched on like a couple of those guys, but they've really done a lot of work to bolster this defense.
Yeah, they really have. Do we have time to play one of the clips?
I think so. Yeah.
Let's get. I think it's clip number 3. About addressing the needs of the roster here for Utah State and trying to figure out, based on players graduated, players who left in the transfer portal, in areas where they felt like they weren't quite as good. And something later on he talked about greater than, not equal to, but always trying to improve the roster and get better as a team. But from his point of view, what he felt were the needs of the team that needed to be addressed.
Really like our class addressing the needs. I think we address them timely. I think we address them effectively. I think we address them with character, meaning the right type of young people to fit our program. I think we addressed it with ability. And, man, the amount of work, wow, in a short amount of time is unlike anything I've experienced in the recruiting world. In addition to that, right, then there is today, which is the second signing date, which was and really predominantly for high school players or late junior college players. And so we're choosing to announce our portal players today also, but really the date is still for remaining high school players and junior college players that hadn't been signed. And so we've added 4 of those. And then I've intentionally held a number of spots even through spring, and that's just for the what ifs. And right after we see their current roster needs, again, we have a new offensive coordinator. We'll assess all of our current roster again, and then I'm not talking about a significant number, but a handful at most, just to then possibly readdress or address whatever might need to happen after that.
So yeah, a lot of stuff that they had to address and look at, and I feel like they've done an excellent job at addressing those. Whether or not the scout of these players turns out to be right, well, that's what fall will decide. Whether or not the work they've done ends up being the right amount of work and whether they've gotten the right players. We got to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit of Utah Jazz to end the hour. They made another trade. They traded for, I think it was an all-star.
Has he been?
Maybe. I want to say yes, but I actually don't think he has. We'll talk about it next. One of the Ball brothers, the Utah Jazz grabbed. We'll be back after this here on the Full Court Press.
Now here's a concept. You earmark a third of your profits to go back into the community to local charities. Dex Imaging does that. My name is Nate Lamson, and I'd like to share with you what I know about the company that acquired Valley Office Systems. Dex Imaging is committed to continuing quality customer service on your copier, printer, or office solution while raising the bar to become a strong community partner. Visit deximaging.com. We think globally, but act locally.
The chips and drinks are endless. The burrito is huge for only $7.95. It's got to be Cafe Sabor, Cache Valley's best Mexican restaurant and gold medal winner in the Best of Northern Utah contest. Experience Locals Day every Thursday with a huge burrito, endless chips and soda, only $7.95. Finding any lunch under $10 is nearly impossible. Every Thursday, drinks, chips, and a massive burrito. You pay just $7.95. The food, the fun at Cafe Sabor in the historic train station on 6th West and Center in Logan.
Snow and black ice are here to stay for a while. If your tires aren't ready, neither is your vehicle. At Express Auto and Tire, they work with all vehicles and all tire sizes, making winter traction and safety their top priority. Name brand tires are always less at Express Tire. As a Point S tire location, you're backed by a nationwide warranty. Get winter ready with no appointment needed. 3200 North Main.
Express Tire, tires for less.
Where tires and service come together.
What do Valentine's Day and Jarek's have in common? They're both all about the romance. Jarek's Fine Jewelry has a great selection for your sweetheart. Don't sweat it out worrying about where to get the perfect gift. We've recently added a 3D laser engraver. Now through Valentine's, Jarek's will personalize any jewelry purchase for no additional charge. We can engrave a wedding date, a name, or any message on most jewelry, like a pendant, watch, bracelet, the inside or outside of a ring. This Valentine's, let us help personalize your gift and make it special. Make it Jarek's.
It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Napa Auto Parts has batteries, headlights, wiper blades, all in stock and on sale now. Get Chemical Guys car wash and detailing kits for only $49.99. Pick up the last bags of Blue Heat Ice Melt for just $10. Get air fresheners, snow scrapers, shop towels, seafoam, and more. Again, all on sale at your locally owned Napa stores with locations from Preston all the way down to Providence. 4781 inquiring about my tease right before the end of the break, saying, "Did you just say the Jazz grab a brother's ball?" No, I said they grabbed one of the Ball brothers. Got to make sure I get my words in order there, lest I have one of those embarrassing moments on radio. But the Jazz, they did actually just minutes ago complete a trade. Eric, you want to hear this? The Utah Jazz announced that the team completed a trade with the Oklahoma City Thunder. The Jazz have acquired cash considerations from the Thunder in exchange for the draft rights to Balsa Koprivica, which were originally acquired by the Jazz on July 18th, 2024, in a trade with the Clippers.
Wow.
Jazz receiving,
didn't see that one coming.
Jazz receiving almighty cash considerations. But another trade that they made was they traded for, this is one of the Ball brothers, Lonzo Ball, former number 2 overall pick, number 2 or number 3 to the Lakers, has bounced around. He's had kind of an injury-riddled career. Ended up being better than I actually thought he was going to be, even though he was drafted high. I thought he was overrated, but ended up being, well, most of what he was billed, but then injuries have kind of taken over. I think he sat out like 2 straight years or something like that.
Yeah, he's had a lot of time on the bench. So, they acquired him and 2 second-round picks, but Utah also sent out Jock Landale, however you say his name. They're sending him, he's a center, he's going to the Atlanta Hawks for cash considerations. So there were a lot of trades yesterday, some big names. There's been a little bit of activity today too. I mean, big activity. Anthony Davis.
Yeah, that was pretty big
on the
one.
move. But now that we're getting closer to the deadline, we see a lot of other smaller moves kind of matriculating throughout the NBA as teams that can take on salary but not really take on roster spots can do that. Utah was in a great position to do that. So they're going to waive him, and Lonzo Ball will basically be a free agent tomorrow.
Yeah.
Sign with whomever he wants.
Yeah, so the Jazz pretty much immediately, the tweet from Shams said that the trading form they're going to discuss, the Jazz would discuss with Lonzo Ball his future. And 4 minutes later, Shams was like, they're releasing it. I was like, oh man, soon was like 4 minutes.
That was a quick
man.
discussion.
They even like sit down. All right, let's discuss your future. Now with the Jazz.
Not here.
Bye.
Okay, here's something else I saw. If we created a team from Utah Jazz buyouts, who would be on that team?
Oh, like Russell Westbrook.
Russell Westbrook.
Isn't Chris Paul on there?
Lonzo Ball, Derrick Rose.
Hey, Derrick Rose. Maybe I must confuse.
Otto Porter Jr., Schroeder.
Dennis Schroeder. Oh, I forgot
Dennis
they had.
Schroeder.
It's all point guards
Kendrick
except for Otto
Perkins, Patrick Beverly, Josh Richardson.
If you
There's
get all
some notable names.
If
there.
you get all these guys in their prime, I mean, for one, you have a pretty stacked point guard, but you have like a fringe playoff team if you can get some wings because you have a bunch of point guards and then Kendrick Perkins, might be one of the dumbest NBA players that ever lived. But we got to take a break here. It's the end of our first hour. Don't go away. We're going to talk Utah State men's basketball. They're playing New Mexico tonight. We'll preview that here on.
I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise. It's been widely reported the NFL has opened its doors to the NCAA, offering guidance as college sports stumble deeper into the pro-style reality. If college athletics are going to look like a professional product, it might as well learn from the most profitable one on the planet. But there is an unavoidable irony here. The NFL, for all of its success, is hardly a model of harmony. Officiating controversies dominate headlines. Player safety remains an unsolved crisis, and in the league struggles with discipline, transparency, and public trust, and the idea of the NFL playing savior feels more complicated than comforting. Now, that doesn't mean the gesture is hollow. The NCAA desperately needs structure. The NFL can offer insights into contracts, governance, and guardrails that college sports never had before. Still, before pouring resources into fixing another product, the league may be wise to clean up its own before publicly handing out advice. I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise.